When I arrived at my daughter's house, I heard her say her mother-in-law's kid eats first. I can wait for whatever is left. That was the first thing I heard before anyone even knew I was standing there. My name is Iris. I am 67 years old. I had only meant to stop by and drop off a pot of stew I made for Elise and the kids. It was nothing special, just something warm on a cold Portland evening. I walked up the steps quietly, the same way I had done hundreds of times, expecting the usual soft chaos of toys and voices. Instead, I heard my daughter's voice cutting clean through the hallway. Lorraine's grandson eats first. My mom can wait. She is used to it, as if humiliation were part of my routine. I stopped with my hand still on the doorknob. I do not know if it was the words themselves or the ease with which she said them, but something inside me stilled in a way I had never felt before. Lorraine laughed light, dismissive. It is just how things are done. I stayed frozen where I was, unseen. For a moment, I considered stepping back down the stairs and pretending I had never heard a thing, but my legs moved on their own, carrying me inside with a quietness I did not plan. Elise turned at the sound of the door, her face tightening for half a second before she forced a smile. "Mom, you are early." I held the warm pot against my chest, the heat doing nothing for the cold settling under my ribs. And then I saw the chair they had set for me pushed against the wall, far from the table. I walked toward it without a word. Elise pulled out a chair for me, one pushed so close to the wall my knees nearly touched it. She set it down gently. As if the gentleness could hide the distance, I lowered myself onto it, folding my hands in my lap. My plate was still empty. Lorraine stood at the counter, spooning stew into a bowl for her grandson. "Eat up, sweetheart," she said, brushing his hair back. "You need to grow strong." She never glanced in my direction. Elise moved around me without meeting my eyes. "Mom, I will grab your plate in a minute," she murmured. "We are just making sure the little one is settled." Mark, my son-in-law, sat across the table scrolling through his phone. He looked up once, offered a stiff smile, and went back to whatever he was reading. Lorraine's voice carried easily. "Children come first. That is how families with standards do things." She set down her spoon with a soft clink. "And Iris, she understands the value of waiting." Elise winced barely, but I saw it. She handed Mark a napkin. "Mom does not mind. She always waits. Always." I felt the word land hard, like an old bruise pressed by accident. Lorraine reached for the bread basket and slid it toward Mark before pulling it back. "Oops, almost forgot. Let me pass this to the ones who need it most first." She placed it in front of her grandson again, laughing lightly. No one spoke to me. No one offered me anything. My plate remained untouched. Elise finally approached with a bowl, then paused when Mark asked her something about a bill. She turned away from me mid-step and joined him at the table. I stayed in the chair against the wall, watching them, feeling the shape of the evening change in front of me. Something inside me shifted with it. I sat in that chair against the wall, watching Elise swirl around the kitchen, pretending everything was normal. Her voice, her movements, they cracked open a part of me I had kept sealed for years. And without meaning to, my mind slipped back to another kitchen, another time, when it was just the two of us. Back then, East Portland felt colder. I worked double shifts at the hospital, nights that blurred into mornings. Elise was barely 6, small enough to fall asleep on the couch waiting for me, her backpack still on. I would come home smelling of antiseptic and exhaustion, change her into pajamas, and whisper apologies she was too young to remember. One winter night, I got an offer. Seattle, a position that paid nearly double, with better hours. A chance to finally breathe. But the thought of uprooting Elise from her school, from the only stability I could give her, was enough to make me turn it down without asking for time to consider. I told the hiring manager thank you and that Portland was home. I never told Elise about the opportunity. I never told her about the debt I juggled. The nights I cried in the laundry room so she would not hear. Or the arguments I swallowed to keep the house quiet. Whenever the fridge ran low or the rent spiked, I made sure she never felt it. I hid the overdue notices, the medical bills, the fear. She grew up thinking the lights stayed on because they just did. That groceries appeared because mothers made them appear. That comfort was natural, not earned. Elise learned to trust that I would always catch her. She never learned to look down and see how much weight I carried. The bowl in her hand clinked as she set it on the table. Still not for me. And for the first time, I understood something sharp and painful. My sacrifices had become her expectations. My silence had become her permission. My love had become the very thing she took for granted. I drew a quiet breath, steady and full of a truth I had avoided for too long. Lorraine's voice carried through the kitchen like she owned every corner of it. She stood beside Elise, correcting the way she sliced bread, adjusting the angle of the serving spoon, pointing out crumbs on the counter as if she were conducting an inspection rather than helping with dinner. "Elise, darling," she said, tapping the edge of a plate. "Presentation matters. Families with standards understand that." Elise stiffened a little. "I know, Lorraine. I am trying." "Trying is not doing," Lorraine replied, lowering her voice but not enough for it to miss me. "A wife must do." Mark cleared his throat from the table. "Mom, let Elise breathe." Lorraine smiled at him. "I am teaching her. Your grandmother would expect nothing less." It was not the first time I had heard her bring up that grandmother, some matriarch from a wealthier part of Vancouver. Washington, a woman who believed every moment in a house showed your worth. Lorraine had inherited those rules like scripture and enforced them the same way. Elise moved toward the sink, her shoulders tight. "Mom, do you need water?" she asked without turning around. "No, thank you," I said gently. Lorraine glanced over her shoulder. "She is fine, Elise. Your mother knows how to wait." The way Elise's jaw clenched told me she heard the insult, but she said nothing. Instead, she fussed with the napkins again, smoothing them even though they were already perfectly aligned. "You missed a corner," Lorraine said. Elise's voice cracked slightly. "I see it." I watched the two of them, Lorraine steady and sharp, Elise bending herself smaller with every correction, and something settled uneasily in my chest. Elise was not mimicking Lorraine out of malice. She was mimicking her out of fear. Fear of being seen as lacking. Fear of being compared to women who lived in bigger houses, with thicker carpets, with standards she had never grown up with. The cruelty directed at me was not just Lorraine's voice echoing, it was Elise trying to survive in a life she thought required this version of her. I folded my hands in my lap, absorbing the pieces falling into place. Dinner dragged on long after the food lost its warmth. My bowl sat in front of me, barely filled, pushed slightly out of reach as if someone had placed it there by accident. No one noticed. Or maybe they did. And it simply did not matter. Lorraine dabbed her lips with a napkin. "Elise, dear, next time serve your mother-in-law first. Iris is used to taking what is left." Mark let out a low chuckle before catching himself. Elise's face tightened, her eyes darting toward me, then away just as quickly. I slid my chair back quietly. The sound was soft, but it cut through the room like something sharper. Elise looked up. "Mom, where are you going?" "I think I will head home," I said, my voice steady. "Thank you for dinner." "You barely ate," Mark commented. "That happens sometimes," I replied. Lorraine lifted her chin. "You do not have to make a scene, Iris." "I am not," I said. "I am simply leaving." Elise stepped forward. "Mom, wait. We are still talking. No, I answered gently. You are talking. I was only listening. Lorraine let out a small laugh. She always comes back. She has nowhere else to be. For years, there had been truth in that sentence. I had shown up for every holiday, every emergency, every moment Elise needed help. I filled the spaces no one else wanted to fill. But tonight, something in me shifted cleanly into place. I picked up my coat. Good night. Elise opened her mouth, but no words came out. Mark watched silently. Lorraine smiled, certain of her victory. I walked to the door, feeling their eyes on my back, each step steadier than the last. And for the first time in decades, I left without looking over my shoulder. I drove home in a quiet that felt heavier than the night itself. The streetlights blurred past the windshield. But my mind was sharper than it had been in years. Leaving Elise's house had not been an impulsive act. It was the final step in something I had been preparing long before tonight. 1 year earlier, Mark lost his job. Elise called me in tears, saying they would fall behind on the mortgage. I stepped in without hesitation, paying a portion every month. I never told anyone, not because I wanted credit, but because keeping the peace felt easier than letting them drown. But when Mark found work again and Elise suggested I keep helping until they caught up, something inside me shifted. I had done enough. Quietly, I visited the bank, signed the papers, and had my name removed from the auto-pay arrangement they depended on. The banker asked twice if I was sure. Yes, I said, completely. The same week, I met with the benefits office that managed my retiree plan for 3 years. The children's health insurance had been covered under my policy. It saved Elise and Mark hundreds every month. I removed them from the plan with the same calm I used to sign every permission slip Elise brought home as a child. I hope they understand, the benefits officer said, stamping the final document. They will, I answered, eventually. And then there was the duplex in Gresham, 2 modest units my late sister left me in her will. Elise never knew. Lorraine certainly did not. The rental income came steadily, enough to keep me secure no matter who tried to pull the ground out from under me. That knowledge had carried me through every slight, every whispered insult, every moment at that dinner table, tonight. When I walked out of Elise's house, I did not feel fear. I felt the weight of ties I had loosened over months, strands I had been unthreading quietly, carefully. Back in my own home, I folded my coat neatly over a chair. My phone buzzed once, an automated message from the insurance office confirming the cancellation. Another from the bank reminding me of the change to the mortgage contributions. I stared at the screen, the glow of it steady in my hands. Everything was already in motion. I had barely pulled away from the curb when the first shout reached me, muffled through the closed windows, sharp enough to cut through the night. I paused at the stop sign, my foot hovering over the brake. More voices followed, overlapping, frantic. Inside the house I had just walked out of, something had broken open. My phone buzzed in the cup holder. Then again, I glanced down. A notification from the bank. The joint mortgage contribution has been terminated. Another auto-pay removal confirmed. Then one from my retiree benefits office insurance dependents removed. Effective immediately. I exhaled slowly. It had all gone into effect faster than I expected. Behind me, the front door slammed open. What do you mean it is gone? Mark's voice carried down the driveway, loud and panicked. It says the payment bounced. Elise's voice rose over his. Mom would not do this. The mortgage is due in 3 days. What are we supposed to do? Lorraine stormed out after them, clutching her phone. My grandson's therapy appointment was declined. She snapped. They said the account on file no longer exists. Who removed it? That is not possible, Elise said. Breath uneven. Mom always handles it. She said she would keep helping until she cut herself off. Mark shoved his phone toward her. Look, the grocery account is closed too. Every recurring payment she set up is gone. For a moment. The three of them stood in the porch light, staring at their screens as if the numbers might change if they glared hard enough. Then Lorraine pointed toward the street. Call her. Now. Elise's hands shook as she dialed. My phone lit up with her name. Then again. I let it ring. Their voices grew louder, confusion turning into fear. Fear into the realization of how much they had relied on something they believed they controlled. I pulled forward, the shouts fading behind me. She came the next evening. Just as I was rinsing a mug in the sink, the knock was hard enough to rattle the frame. I know you are home, Mom. Open the door. Her voice sounded thinner than usual, stretched tight. I dried my hands and unlocked the door. Elise stood there, eyes red, hair pulled back in a rush. She pushed past me without waiting for an invitation. How could you do this? She demanded. The mortgage, the insurance, the grocery account, you just cut everything off? I closed the door gently. Hello, Elise? Do not do that, she snapped. Do not act calm like this is nothing, Getty. The kids need that insurance. We are 3 days from the mortgage being due. You left us hanging. You left me hanging at your table, I said quietly. Tonight is simply the first time we are all being honest about who depends on whom. She stared at me, chest rising and falling. You abandoned your family. I felt the words land, heavy and unfair. No. I stopped paying for adults who treat me like a burden. Her face crumpled for a moment before she caught it. I was trying to manage everything. She said, Lorraine says I have to keep the house perfect. Keep the kids perfect. Keep you from making things awkward. I am trying to be a good wife, a good daughter-in-law, a good daughter. A good daughter does not let her mother sit with an empty plate. I cut in. Tears filled her eyes. If I stand up to Lorraine, Mark thinks I am overreacting. If I do not, you look at me like I am a stranger. I do not know how to make anyone happy anymore. I let out a slow breath. It is not your job to make everyone happy, but it is your choice how you let people treat you and how you let them treat me. She sank down onto the edge of my small sofa, shoulders shaking. I did not think you would actually walk away. I sat beside her, leaving just enough space between us for both the hurt and the possibility of something different. Elise wiped her face with the sleeve of her sweater, trying to steady her breathing. Just tell me what you want me to do, she whispered. I will fix it. I will make it right. I sat across from her, hands folded. I do not want you to fix anything, I said. I want you to understand something clearly. She looked up, exhausted. What is that? I will always help my grandchildren, I said. If they need food, medicine, school supplies, I will be there. For them, I let the pause settle. But I will not support grown adults who speak to me the way your mother-in-law does. Or who let her. Elise flinched, but did not look away. No more quiet payments. I continued. No more covering bills without acknowledgement. No more rescuing anyone from the consequences of their choices. That part of my life is over. A tear slipped down her cheek. I do not want your money, she said. I want another chance. I want you to trust me again. Trust is built, I answered softly. And this time, we will both build it with open hands, not hidden sacrifices. She nodded, slowly, as if the weight of the evening finally settled into something she could carry in the weeks that followed. My days found a quieter rhythm. On Tuesday mornings, I joined a senior walking group along the Willamette River. No one there knew anything about Elise, Lorraine, or the night I walked out. They just knew me as Iris, the woman who kept pace with them and laughed at their stories. It felt good to be someone without history for an hour. After one walk, a woman named Carol nudged me gently. You should come with us on Saturday. We do a longer route. And brunch. I smiled. I think I will. Back home, I opened the folder of documents for the duplex in Gresham. 2 tenants, both steady and respectful, paid on time every month. The income was modest, but it was mine. I managed repairs, answered calls, and even hired a handyman from the walking group to fix a broken railing. For the first time in years, I felt like I had built something that did not depend on anyone else's approval. Elise started texting small updates. "The kids miss you. I made the stew you taught me. We paid the insurance ourselves this month." She never asked for money. She only asked how I was. One evening, she stopped by with a bag of groceries. "I wanted to do something for you," she said. No strings this time. I let her put them away. The silence between us lighter than it had been in years. When she left, I stood by the window for a while, watching her car pull out of the parking lot. The apartment was quiet, but it felt warm. This life, this peace, I had chosen it. If you want more stories like this, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe.